everyone, welcome to the MrpTech Podcast. This is episode 120. My name is Matt, and this is the weekly podcast discussing everyday tech for everyday people. This week's episode is going to be talking about cybersecurity tracking and some of the really cool things that you can see online in regards to tracking cybersecurity threats. Now, a while back, I took my school technology club to another school district close by. And as soon as we got there, we saw their student help desk. And behind the help desk, there was a couple of monitors set up. One of them was displaying the well-known Norse attack map. And if you've never seen this map before, it's pretty neat. It's a sort of visual representation of cyber attacks that are happening in the world. So you get a picture of the world, and then you see in various colors sort of darting around the world, almost like you would see in a video game or in, watching missiles launch and such. You're seeing all these attacks go from one part of the world to the other, and it's very graphical. It's very nice looking. You also get a very detailed display of these cyber attacks. Now, there's a common misconception that these are actual live cyber attacks, but it's actually a collection of data that's put together and then represented visually. And if you've never seen this Norse map before, a lot of people in the tech industry sort of use it as eye candy when they're trying to have visitors come to their district or workplace. It's more of something that looks professional, feels professional, but really doesn't have a whole lot of value other than, say, getting people interested in technology. So we display this map at our school, and most of the time it's in our Ed Tech Center, which is sort of tucked away, a small room tucked away in another room. But occasionally at our help desk, we'll also display this. And as soon as I do that, usually I have teachers stopping by or students stopping by. What is that out there? What is that? And I explain to them what it is. And I think a while back in our Discord chat room, I sort of posted a question. Does anybody know of any other sites that are similar to the Norse web attack map? Well, for the last few days, the Norse map has been down. I'm not really sure what's going on. Maybe they're updating it, coming out with something new. But I haven't been able to access it all this week. And sort of by accident, I stumbled across a nice article from CSO Online talking about 8 different cyber attack maps and how to use them. What I'll do is I'll put this link in the show notes in case you're looking for this, because there are some really neat cyber attack maps that I just became aware of this week. And this week's episode I'm calling Threat Level Midnight. If you've ever seen The Office, you'll understand that joke. But really, it's kind of neat visual representations of what's going on in the world within the last few days. And so the one thing I'd like to do in this week's episode is I'd like to just talk about them really quickly and just kind of go down the list. So the first one I want to talk about today is Fortinet's cyber attack map. It sort of looks similar to the Norse map. It appears and it shows a playback of recorded events. They're displayed on a visual representation. A small box in the lower center of the screen pops up, and it shows you all the attacks that have been recorded. It also shows you a very clean, very nice sort of grayscale map of the world, and the continents are basically surrounded by red borders. Really clean looking, really professional look. And I've had this up on a couple of screens this week and did get some interest with my students. Again, sort of just similar in context to the Norse screen, where you are seeing attacks coming from one country to a specific other country, back and forth. And that's the way most of these maps work. Another map that's out there is the Threat Cloud Cyber Attack Map. And this one is very nice looking, very modern looking. You're getting the time of the attack, what type of attack it is, whether it's a phishing attack or malware or DDoS attack, the source that it's coming from, and the target. Now, what it does is it keeps track of all the current attacks today since 12 a.m. And it keeps track of the attacks yesterday as well. So yesterday, on October 31st, there was 8,459,352 attacks recorded by ThreatCloud. Today, so far, there are 2,735,060 attacks that have happened so far. This sort of attack tracker will reset as the day goes. As soon as it hits midnight, it resets again. And just another way to sort of keep track of everything that you're seeing. It's a more visual map than the one from Norse, but it still has the same basic idea. You can also get monthly and weekly stats too with that ThreatCloud cyber attack map. It's kind of cool. It's something different. For people who are interested in statistics, I think that one would be kind of a cool one if you want to sort of track and analyze cyber threats over the last week or so. Again, I'm more looking at it as an educational purpose. There are probably really no real applications that you can use these maps for, but they look great on a screen. So if you are inviting people over to check out your setup, or you're starting a tech club at a school, these all look great on screens and definitely piques students' interest, and they want to learn more about this type of stuff. And then you can kind of go in detail from there and explain what's actually happening. The next one I want to talk about is the FireEye, all one word, FireEye cyber attack map. This map does not have very much detail. Again, you get a map of the world. It's not as visually stunning as the other maps, but it keeps things very simple. And this works great on sort of lower spec computers. I've got a lot of donated computers in my ed tech center, and some of them are older. This one displays great on older computers. And what you'll see, it keeps track of local time, keeps track of the day's attacks. Not only do you have a map of the world, on the bottom left-hand side, you have a spinning globe that shows you the top countries sort of being attacked at the moment, and the top 5 reported industries on the bottom right-hand corner, and such as financial services, telecom, manufacturing, insurance, the top 5 cyber threats for those particular industries. And all of these you can do full screen. You can display on an external monitor. You can display on your laptop or Chromebook or whatever, because these are all web-based. So moving along next is probably one of my least favorite ones. It's sort of a hybrid map that was created with Google Ideas. This one is the digital attack maps that tracks DDoS attacks, and it's from Arbor Networks. This one is probably the least stunning map of the list, but it does provide a lot of really great information. You can set attacks by color, so you can have a different idea of what you're looking at. And based on the visual representations, they also give you like different sizes of the attacks, so if different bandwidth and gigabytes per second, that type of thing. It also shows you a really nice graph of the last day or so of attacks, and you can sort of go back and take a look at everything that's been happening over the last 24 hours or so. Again, this one not really all that visually stunning, but if you have a room with a bunch of different screens and you're trying to put all different types of cyber attacks on there, this DDoS attack one is something different compared to the rest of them. Trend Micro has put out a botnet connection dashboard, and it's not as fancy as the other ones. It's sort of tamed down quite a bit, but it tracks botnets and their targets across the world, and the historical data goes back 2 weeks. There's not a whole lot to talk about with that one in particular. Again, this one works better on older computers because it isn't as visually focused. And the next one I want to talk about is and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, the Akamai real-time monitor. This one there's a couple of different views that you have in this one. Basically, it's not like the other maps where you're seeing the attacks shot back and forth between different countries. Here you're sort of seeing hot spots in the world, and you're seeing network traffic, the percentage, whether it's below normal or above average, what the different parts of the world are being attacked, and are you in a spot that gets attacked quite frequently? Are you not so much in a spot where you have to worry as much? It's kind of interesting to see the primary targets of where all this traffic is going and coming from. And so basically, again, you're just taking a look at averages from the last few days probably on these cyber attacks and web traffic, especially on this one. Really, the idea here is, I know it's hard to explain over a podcast, but if you were to check out one of these, the one besides Norse that everybody knows of, the one that I would recommend the most for you to take a look at is the Kaspersky Cyber Threat Real-Time Map. This one is the most visual and is probably even more stunning than the Norse map is. If you've never seen this one, it's a full picture of the globe, sort of on a grayscale with the countries labeled, and you're getting a 3D effect that none of the other maps offer. So you have not only the map, but you have statistics and data sources, and you're getting the top 6 most attacked countries in the world and how many attacks they have. But the graphics on this are just stunning and beautiful if you have a computer that can handle it. And after a few minutes, it actually goes into a 3D sort of visualization, and you actually become one of the cyber attacks, and you actually get to travel sort of through the network and see it moving on this map. And so it becomes into a 3D sort of, almost looks like you're flying through canyons and mountains. It's kind of neat to see. The colors change. It's very visual, from bright purples, deep purples, to blues and greens. If you're looking to sort of spice up your office or your help desk or anything like that, you have got to check this out because it is really cool to see. It's fun to watch. It does not work very well on old computers that don't have the graphics card to handle it. It'll still work, but it won't be as visually as appealing. On the new System 76, everything is very clean and beautiful. As I'm looking at it, everything moves very smoothly. And you're also getting some like lighting effects from cities in the world. It's not a real image of the globe, but you're getting sort of effects that are graphically represented. It's a really neat map, and this one I'm going to use more if for some reason the Norse web attack map doesn't work over the next few days. So all of these I'm going to put links in the show notes, and the idea here is more to get people interested in tech. It's a fun thing to put up on a screen. It's a great talking point, conversation starter. They really don't do a whole lot other than show visual representations. I'd love to be able to actually use this data, but you can use this as a launching point for students if they're looking at it and they don't know what a DDoS attack is, or they don't know what a phishing attempt is. They can look that stuff up and learn about it, and then they'll have a better idea of what they're seeing with all this traffic being visually represented. So that's the sort of top 8 cyber attack maps that I've found. And once again, I'm putting this link in the show notes so that you can check them out. I'd love to know what you think about them, because I didn't know these existed. And I believe the last time I looked for it was over the summer. I don't know if these are relatively new or I just never found them before. But even if you're looking up one of them, like Norse, and this article says it came out August 21st, 2017. So they've been out for a while. Just something that I didn't really know about. And they're fun topics, and you get kids interested in technology. And speaking of that, last Friday I took my technology club. We went to the local state college, and got to take a tour of their cybersecurity center. And one of the things that they did right away is the professor that was in charge of the cybersecurity center, basically he gave us a tour of their setup, and he basically told us that all of the computers in his room were donated computers. He travels around, he looks for old computers, and they rebuild them and suit them for certain purposes. And so when you walk into their room, they have computers all around. They have 3 server stations sort of set up in the middle of the walls on each side. And these students are trained to learn penetration testing systems and software. And they build up their servers, they build up security on their servers, and it's completely firewalled from the rest of the college's internet. And what they do is they have to hack each other's servers and learn how to protect themselves from hackers, and also try to hack into other servers at the same time. And so they learn how to discover when their server is being hacked. Really, really cool. They're using countless Raspberry Pis. They have some television monitors hanging up on the walls in a nice straight line with all sorts of statistics, one of them being the Norse map that we talked about as well. And so the first thing that the students were required to do is they actually were taught how to make their own Cat5 network cable, which I thought was a great idea because it's a useful skill for them to learn. It's very easy to do. They made their own cable, got to take it home with them, and just so happens that we have some wiring that we have to do in our room. So now I have a project for the kids to do, and we've got about 8 computers that need to be hardwired. And rather than just having them plug it in, I'm just going to have them make the wires and their own Cat5 network cable, and I'm going to have them do it, test it, make sure it's working, and then we'll plug it in. So that was what they did last Friday. They had to take a tour of the college. They also got to see a demonstration of robotics, and they were showed how the robots were programmed with Scratch. And I'm hoping that creates some interest in students wanting to learn how to program because all the Raspberry Pis with Raspbian have Scratch on them. So kind of some fun stuff going on over here the last few days. And we've got a lot of little projects in the works now just because of this one field trip to a college. And if you've never taken a trip to a college, if you've got a group of students, I encourage you to do that, because for high school students, that first visit to a college is like eye-opening on how different things are. Professors act differently than high school teachers. Things are a lot more laid back and relaxed and mellow. And it's an experience for students who have never been to a college before to see those things. And we forget sometimes as teachers that we've already been through that, and we forget how many students don't get that opportunity very often. So I was thinking that these students had visited a few colleges before, but some of them, it was their first college that they had been to. So I'm glad to have been able to give them that opportunity, and they learned something out of it too. They actually got hands-on, and they were able to build their own network cable and see some of what the college students were doing and maybe spark some interest. And that was the idea. So who knows, maybe in 3, 4 years, 5 years, we'll have some students from my district that are majoring in computer science or cybersecurity or something like that. Who knows? It's all up to them, and that's what it's all about. But the one thing that I did get out of it myself is that this professor's program, this cybersecurity program, was built exactly the same way that I started my program here, with donated computers, slowly building up. When we started here, we had a Chromebook and a monitor, and that was it. And now we have over 10 different operating systems in the room, all capable of doing different things. And we're just building from there. Now we're going to have students, instead of just doing computer repair, now they're going to be making their own Cat5 cable. Pretty awesome. So, and have them get a little bit more hands-on here. That's going to do it for this week's episode, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.